The death of a young Kurdish woman in Iran has sparked unprecedented protests across the country. The security forces have cracked down, but weeks on, there is no sign of the protesters backing down. Some of the biggest demonstrations so far took place 40 days after Mahsa Amini died. The BBC can't operate freely in Iran, so we rely on people sending us videos from inside the country. This time, Iran's young TikTok generation are at the forefront of this challenge to the Islamic regime. It's the latest in a long struggle for women's rights in Iran. So why this time has the slogan for these protests, Women, Life, Freedom, spread across the country and the world?
اینجا تهران است، صدای جمهوری اسلامی ایران، رادیو تهران.
In early September, Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old woman, and her younger brother traveled from Saqqez, a Kurdish city in western Iran, to visit the capital city, Tehran, for the first time. But their journey takes an ominous turn. As soon as they get out of the metro station, Mahsa faces the morality police, a force tasked with enforcing the strict Islamic dress code on women in public. Mahsa's clothes are deemed revealing.
بزور هر وارديان كردو ليان داو داويانا بسريا وانا حتى كراكشم كاللي يبوا لكراكشم يان داوا كراس وشتكان قشي لبرداكن دو دراندو يانا.
Mahsa is detained and taken to a police station in Tehran. An hour later, Mahsa complains about something to a female police officer. This CCTV footage shows the moment she collapses in the police station. By the time she's transferred to a hospital, she's brain dead and falls into a coma.
هر أول لحظة دكتورة كان من جيش ما سنة 100 سنة فوتي كذا أصلاً من الله نماوا.
3 days later, Mahsa is pronounced dead. The news of her death outrages many across the country. The security forces disperse a crowd gathered in front of the hospital. Tehran's police chief says Mahsa fell into a coma because of a heart condition. The morality police usually wear body cameras, but they say they didn't on that day. The police van had CCTV cameras. No recordings have been made available. Mahsa's father says eyewitnesses have told him the morality police beat Mahsa up in the van. Despite threats and intimidation by the security forces, Mahsa's father refuses to remain silent. In an interview with BBC Persian, he says the government's account is totally false.
من ازشون خواستم فیلم داخل ماشین وان که بردن بازگاه اونو بیان نشون بدن. گفتن مال دوربینای اون موقع همه شارژش تموم شده. مگه میشه دوربین شارژش تموم بشه؟
The Islamic Republic has strict rules on what women wear in public. The morality police have been enforcing those rules for 4 decades. Their confrontations with young women on many occasions have led to verbal abuse and physical violence.
تمام زنان ایران از این ماجرا لطمه خوردن، نه فقط به خاطر تو خیابون کتک خورده باشن، تو خونه از اداره اخراج شدن، بازخرید شدن.
Anger against the strict Islamic rules imposed on women was expressed at Mahsa's funeral in the cemetery in the Kurdish city of Saqqez.
We saw that in the cemetery, women are throwing their scarves. It was as if, for the first time, the entire society was receiving women showing this act of civil disobedience. It has taken a long time for women to achieve what they achieved at that moment. They have gone beyond their fear to communicate with their society, and I think that was a turning point in the feminist movement in Iran.
Women, life, freedom. The words chanted by protesters at Mahsa's funeral struck a chord in every corner of Iran. Before long, protests had spread like wildfire across the country.
They killed Mahsa for just a bit of hair. Just for a little bit of her hair was visible, you know? But now, what's going on in Iran? Women removing their hijab completely. Because Mahsa is not dead for Iranian women. She's becoming a symbol of resistance against religious dictatorship.
جنبشی که الان توی خیابونه اونا رهبرشون خودشونن، خواست تنشونه، موهای سرشونه و ظلمیه که دیدن بابت زن بودنشون، بابت فقر، بابت محرومیت و بابت در واقع کنترل تنشون.
Compulsory hijab and strict rules on women were imposed under the Islamic Revolution 40 years ago. Now, even high school girls are daring to challenge, removing their headscarves and chanting death to the dictator in front of their schools. Something unprecedented and unimaginable just a few weeks ago.
این خشم انقدر زیاده، هر روز هر کسی میخواسته اعتراض کنه سرکوبش کردن. الان دیگه فقط میخوان جمهوری اسلامی بره و نباشه. یعنی فقط واسه یه حجاب اجباری نیست، برای 40 سال اون ظلم و ستمیه که به هممون شده.
But there is no sign that the Islamic leadership is thinking of compromise. In his first response to the protest, Iran's supreme leader blamed foreign governments.
این اغتشاش برنامه‌ریزی داشت. کار آمریکا، کار رژیم غاصب و جعلی صهیونیستی و دنبال روای اونهاست. انگیزه اونها این است که احساس بکنن کشور در حال پیشرفت به سمت قدرت همه جانبه است. اینو نمیتونن تحمل کنن. در این حوادث چند روز اخیر بیش از همه به سازمان انتظامی کشور ظلم شد. به بسیج ظلم شد.
The security forces were sent out onto the streets in force. But opposition to compulsory hijab in Iran is not new. Many women have been fighting it since the early days of the Islamic Revolution in 1979. Women, both religious and secular, participated in the revolution to remove the Shah, but for many of them, the celebration was short-lived. The leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Khomeini, called for imposing Islamic rule on women. Many unveiled women were attacked.
من کارمند دولت هستم. امروز صبح از طرف دانشگاه تهران با عده کثیری از خانم‌ها حرکت کردیم. بعد از پل حافظ آقایون افراطیون به ما حمله کردند و فحش‌های رکیک و تهمت‌های ناروا به ما زدند و یه عده از ما رو زخمی کردند و به طوری که به پشت خود بنده مشت محکمی زدند.
Less than a month after the revolution, the first protest against compulsory hijab took place in Tehran.
اون اولین اعتراض، بزرگترین اعتراض و مظلومترین اعتراض بود. از این جهت میگم مظلوم به دلیل اینکه حمایت نشد، نه از جانب گروه‌های سیاسی، نه از جانب مردان روشنفکر و نه حتی از جانب بسیاری از زنان روشنفکر، به دلیل اینکه ارزیابی این بود که این حرکت دولت انقلابی و ضد امپریالیسم رو تضعیف میکنه.
Ayatollah Khomeini is determined to see an Islamic state at all cost.
And if they can't persuade the women and other sectors who oppose extremist Islamic beliefs,
Ayatollah Khomeini prevailed. Strict Islamic rules imposed on women became one of the main pillars of the regime.
How you will understand that this is an Islamic country? Through us, the women. Because the Islamic Republic make us to carry their ideology on our body. Basically, hijab is not a choice for us.
But Iranian women have kept fighting. Mansoura Shojaei is an Iranian women's rights activist. Now she lives in exile in The Hague, the Netherlands. In 2006, Mansoura and a group of women in Iran started a campaign called 1 Million Signatures. The campaign sought to change discriminatory laws against women.
ما رو دستگیر می‌کردن. به محض دستگیر کردن امضاها رو از ما می‌دزدیدن. اینا متوجه نبودن که عدد اون امضاها برای ما مهم نیست. ما به عدد اون امضاها با مردم ارتباط گرفته بودیم، با مردم رو در رو حرف زده بودیم، جریان سازی کرده بودیم.
Most of the women behind the campaign were arrested or exiled, but a new generation of activists went online. With the development of the internet in Iran, communicating with young Iranian women became easier. Mahsa Amini, an Iranian activist exiled in the US, used social media to promote her campaigns against compulsory hijab.
Look at this colorful hair. This is a hair revolution.
My stealthy freedom, my camera is my weapon, and White Wednesdays are some of her campaigns against compulsory hijab.
8 years ago, I launched a campaign against compulsory hijab. I picked a color, white. I picked a day, Wednesday, because I wanted people who do not believe in hijab to identify each other in public. People took to the streets, practicing their civil disobedience while wearing a white symbol or waving white symbol in public.
One of the women responding to the White Wednesdays campaign was Yasamin Aryai. In an act of defiance against forced hijab, Yasamin filmed herself without a hijab on the streets of Tehran. This act was a crime in the eyes of the Islamic Republic. Yasamin was arrested in 2019 and sentenced to 5 years in prison. The founder of the campaign wasn't immune, even in the US. Mahsa Amini has been in the crosshairs of the Iranian security forces. In 2021, the FBI foiled a plot to kidnap her in New York. But the Iranian government has denied that it was involved.
If it was not the FBI stopping the kidnapping plot, I would have been in Iran now executed. The FBI actually arrested a man with a loaded gun in front of my house in Brooklyn. Maybe they're scared of my hair. I don't know. I don't know why they're scared of me.
Like Masih, during the latest protests, many influential Iranian figures have used social media to break through state media censorship. From footballers to actors, from scholars to singers, they have expressed their support. In this clip, songwriter Shervin Hajipur uses the wording from people's tweets to compose a song about why the Islamic Republic should no longer exist. Iranian security forces arrested Shervin immediately, but it was too late. His song had already gone viral. Singers in Iran and around the world covered his song.
For all the pills we pop just to get some sleep, for all mankind in our country, for all the boys and girls who love
the It wasn't only the song that crossed borders. The slogan of the protest, "Women, Life, Freedom," also went around the world. In solidarity with the protesters, many international celebrities cut their hair, an ancient act symbolic in Iran of mourning and loss. Iranian communities in the diaspora have been moved to protest. Many have rallied in support in cities around the world.
Tens of thousands of Iranians have traveled from all over Europe to be here in Berlin. It is the largest protest ever by the Iranian diaspora. People from all walks of life and different ethnicities united as never before to support the protest inside Iran. People repeatedly shouting this slogan, Jin, Jiyan, Azadi, women, life, freedom. So how did the slogan begin?
The motto, woman, life, liberty, first was used by the Kurdish women resisting against the Turkish state in Turkey towards the end of 1980s. And later it was used by resistance of Kurdish women against the ISIS. The motto itself is very generative. It is supposed to empower people.
For the last 40 years, Iranian Kurdish women have fought against their male-dominated society and played a significant role in activities opposing the Islamic Republic.
The motto, woman, life, freedom, and especially the Kurdish context from which it rose. It is not thinking about women's freedom as a mere legal issue or a matter of mandatory hijab or those kind of things. It is actually addressing all the patriarchal foundations of our society.
This time, the slogan, women, life, freedom, has been picked up especially by Iran's TikTok generation, a generation born long after the revolution and educated in the Islamic Republic system.
این کسانی که در خیابان فساد و تخریب می‌کنند، بعضی از اینها جوانان و نوجوانانی هستند که هیجان ناشی از ملاحظه فرض کنید که فلان برنامه اینترنتی اینا رو به خیابون میکشونه. با یه تنبیهی میشه اینا رو مشکلشون رو حل کرد.
که بهش میگیم بچه ولی هیچ کس حالا نمیاد بپرسه تو این بچه دردت چیه؟
This young woman is typical of the way her generation are speaking out.
رفتید از کشوری که میگی تحریممون کردن گاز اشکاور برداشتید آوردید ولی واکسن نیاوردید. چرا؟ درد ما فقط حجاب نیست. درد ما اینه که تا میخوایم حرفمون رو بزنیم میای سرکوب میکنید میای میزنید میکشید بچهای مردمو. کسی که اختلاس کرده در راست تو خیابون راه میره ولی کسی که اومده فقط اعتراض کرده نخبه‌های کشورمون، کارگردان، نویسنده، همه تو زندان ایران.
This is 16-year-old Sarina Ismailzadeh. At first glance, she looks like any Western girl. Well connected to social media and posting videos on YouTube. But she lived in Gohardasht near Tehran. Sarina died during the protests. Amnesty International says the security forces beat her head with sticks. The authorities say she committed suicide. Since the protest began, more than 200 people have been killed. At least 20 of them have been teenagers. Another of the victims was Nika Shakarami. Nika was 16. Here, she's singing for her friends. After the death of Mahsa, she joined a protest near her home in Tehran. The last message she sent to her friends was, "I'm running. I am being chased by security forces." Then she disappeared. 10 days later, her mother found her body in a morgue. Her family planned to bury her in their hometown of Khurramabad in western Iran. The funeral fell on her 17th birthday. Nika's mother gathered with thousands of people in the cemetery for her burial, but her body never arrived.
صبح اون روز بدون اجازه ما جنازه رو دزدیده بودن و خودشون برده بودن با تدابیر امنیتی شدید. جنازه رو در یک روستای دور افتاده به خاک سپرده بودن.
As news filtered through, mourners in the cemetery were enraged and started chanting, "Death to the dictator." Security forces responded with tear gas, batons, and birdshot. Nika's aunt and uncle were taken into custody for publicizing her death. The authorities insisted that Nika was not killed in the protest, and the cause of her death was falling from a height. To prove this, Nika's grieving aunt was filmed explaining how Nika fell from a building. It was shown on state TV. State TV has a history of broadcasting forced confessions of political prisoners gained under pressure and torture.
مجبورش کردن این اعترافات رو بکنه و توی تلویزیون پخش کردن و ما انتظارش رو کاملا داشتیم که اینا همه جور حرفی، همه جور تهمتی بزنن که خودشون رو تبرئه کنن.
BBC Persian obtained a video showing a young girl burning her headscarf in the exact location from where Nika last called her friend. Her family confirmed the girl in the video was Nika. Despite threats and intimidation, Nika's mother in a video refuted the authorities' account of Nika's death.
دختر من در تظاهرات همون روزی که مفقود شد همون روز کشته شده. پزشکی قانونی هم همین رو دقیقاً به ما گفتش که در اثر ضربات متعدد جسم سخت به سرش کشته شده.
The death of young people like Nika fuels the anger against the regime, but the Islamic Republic leaders have vowed to deal with protesters decisively.
Mahsa's tragic death is becoming a turning point for Iranian women. And it is a tipping point for the Islamic Republic. Women are tired of being second-class citizens. They want to have dignity and freedom. And now, this is a revolution being led by Iranian women, alongside men, supporting them.
اون لحظه که من میبینم یه زنی میره جلوی مأمور وای میسه، اون لحظه که میبینم که یکی وایستاده تا حقشو بگیره، چون خودم هم وایستادم که حقمو بگیرم، قشنگترین لحظه ایه که امیدوار میشم میگم که نسل آینده ما مثل ما زندگی نمیکنه، اینا حقشونو میگیرن.
this motto and what it was promising is the right path towards the future of Iran, if they are to actually move towards a democratic future. So regardless of whether or not this round of protests are gonna reach any immediate result, at least have opened the right door this time.
زندونا پر شده، قبرستونا پر شده، بیمارستانا پر شده، ولی اینا هر شب میان تو خیابون. بنابراین جامعه زنان و مردان و حامیان این جنبش زن زندگی آزادی قصد عقب نشینی ندارن.
The Islamic Republic of Iran has faced a number of serious protests in the past 40 years. This time, it feels different, but there is no clarity yet on the outcome.